I'm Shauna Magill-Fegan and welcome to the Love NI Food podcast. This is where we celebrate Northern Ireland's food and drink industry, our great food, great people and great stories. You know, we've so much to be proud of here in Northern Ireland. Our local food and drink industry contributes 8 billion to the local economy. Our local produce is exported to over 70 countries worldwide, and we can trace our food from farm to fork. And on the Love NI Food podcast, we let the people driving the industry here in Northern Ireland tell their stories. This episode of the Love NI Food podcast is brought to you by Andrew Ingredients, supporting Northern Ireland's food industry for over 80 years. My guest this week is an extraordinary hands-on entrepreneur, firmly rooted in family, in farming and in food. 16 years ago, quite accidentally, she created what is one of the most successful rapeseed, single seed, cold pressed rapeseed oil brands. She's also a beekeeper, an animal rescuer and a slow food champion. Welcome, Leona Kane, founder of Broighter Gold Rapeseed Oil, to the Love NI Food podcast.
Thank you so much, Shauna. Appreciate
It's great to have you.
Well, it's lovely to be here as well, to be honest.
Leona, Broighter Gold is very much a product of its place, isn't it? And that place is Broglasco Farm. And Broglasco Farm, which you and your husband Richard have been farming for many, many years, is located at the foot of the beautiful Benevna mountain near Limavady in the heart of the Northwest. Would you describe Broglasco Farm for us, please?
Broglasco Farm, the family has been there for 6 generations. Sometimes I feel like I'm there 6 generations. But Richard's family has been farming for a long time. They took it over in the 1900s. It's set in an area of natural outstanding beauty. So our farm, if you look out the front, overlooks Benevna Mountain, Keady. We've got the beautiful flat land because it's all reclaimed. If you just literally do a 180, we can oversee the whole of the peninsula right round to Donegal. So we are surrounded with Loch Foyle, which is quite extreme at times. So we get a lot of wind, a lot of rain. Broglasco is in a microclimate, so it's when the sun's shining, there's nowhere nicer to be. But when it's windy and wet, you need extra coats and hats, so you do. But it's lovely. It's a nice place to live, and we're very lucky to be bringing up the kids there.
And is the oilseed rape in flower at the moment?
It is. It's in bloom. So the minute you look out the window in the morning or the bedroom window, everything's bright and yellow, and you pull up those curtains and it's just sunshine, even if it is wet and dull. So it's a nice time to be here.
And you've described that scene at Broglasco when the seed is in full flower, like liquid gold, fields of gold. Fields
of gold.
Bright yellow.
Yeah.
Must be heavenly to look out at.
It just makes you smile, Shauna, to be honest. You know, it's like looking out into, you know, if you're in Sweden or wherever, looking out into the tulip fields or whatever, just to have any sort of flower, I think just lifts your spirits in the morning, any time of day.
And you stumbled upon your business idea quite by accident, didn't you?
Literally by accident. Yeah. So we got married 21 years ago and took over the family farm. The house needed some work done. We ended up waiting about 4 or 5 years, and then we started to renovate. At that stage, Richard was diversifying the farm into different things. His dad was still part of the business as well, very much so, but he wanted to do his own niche. He was farming wheat, barley, and then he took on a biodiesel business, weirdly, which sounds quite strange whenever you're talking about diesel as well as oil, but he was the first in Northern Ireland to bring out environmentally friendly biodiesel, basically. So we did that for a while, and it was great. The vehicles were running on free diesel. He was taking it from seed, not from what people expect of chip pan fat or whatever. So we were doing the whole process ourselves, and the council was actually running their vehicles on it, so they were seen to be being green. we just installed the range into the house. We were living in the front room with, yes, another rescue dog. That's why we didn't move out.
We'll come back to the rescue animals.
So we lived in the house. My mother was distraught because I was pregnant with our first son, Jacob. And we ended up installing the range cooker very excitedly. And I says, Richard, bring me up some of the oil because I ran out of olive oil, which he did. And I was like, oh my God, is it actually going to ruin these 2 steaks or is it not? But the minute I put the oil in the pan, the smell was totally different. It didn't burn. And then that was it. Richard, he joked that night. He goes, oh, that could be our Broighter Gold. And I was like, God, do you think you could actually take something from your farm and take it the whole way through?
And Richard literally said that this could be our Broighter Gold.
And that was it.
And the seed was set.
Yeah.
That was it.
I always thought it would be nice eventually whenever we had kids, you know, to maybe work from home or run your own business. Didn't ever think I would want to be bottling oil, to be honest. It wasn't one of those dream jobs that you imagined, but it was the health benefits that kind of got me excited. At that stage, I was very much into the gym and, you know, training and things like that. Loved Pilates. And I thought, goodness, well, if you can take something from your own farm that you know what's there, what you're producing and taking it the whole way through and putting it in a bottle, surely that's far healthier than buying something that's imported. So that kind of set the ball rolling. We had Jacob and he didn't keep well at the very start, so I had a lot of time in my hands and I ended up researching the health benefits and just couldn't believe it. It was healthier than olive oil because it was always olive oil that I had used.
What is the difference between olive oil and rapeseed oil?
So olive oil, whenever you pick the olives straight away, they have to be processed and kept in large vats because of the temperature. So that has to be in a lovely air-controlled environment. It has to be pressed straight away. Rapeseed, if we dry it to the right moisture, whenever we harvest it, it can sit there in our bags, which is fortunate for us. We don't have it's not fortunate for us, but our weather is more kind of erratic that we don't have to have it in air-cooled conditions or anything. It can just sit there in ambient stage. But the next stage of the processing, we literally can just press it, filter it, and then take it the whole way through. But for that, it's the health benefits. There's 10 times more omega-3 in rapeseed compared to olive oil, but there's half saturated fat, which is the big one. Plus there's vitamin D and E. The big one for me is it's the only oil that has the perfect balance of omega-3, 6 and 9. And that sounds well and good. And somebody will say, oh, but don't worry, another coconut oil has omega-9. But if you have too much of one of your omegas, then that's no good. So you have to have the right balance for your hair, your heart and everything, and your skin as well. It's okay to say this is our health conditions, but the big thing is as well, if you're not growing it the right way, so it's like the French talk about their terroir. So we're very much concerned in the environment and what we put on our plants. We're not organic, but we try to go down as sustainable and environmentally friendly as we can. We're part of Nature Friendly Farming Network, so we want to make sure whatever we're using in our soil is for the next generation as well. So we're really, really concerned that it has to be right. So for us, we want to ensure that we're not using herbicides, we use less pesticides, things like that. But we're always testing as well. So we do a lot of tests on the farm in relation to the soil samples. All our products get tested every 6 months. So you're always ensuring that our oils that we're talking about is the healthiest that we can produce. And someone else might not be doing the same as what we're doing.
And Richard has been quite innovative and is renowned for being innovative in his sustainable farming practices. And I know that the terroir, the soil, the farmland that you farm at Broighter is very much a part of the story. And the soil really is unique, isn't it? What makes it so unique? Is it Richard's minimal sort of cultivation techniques, or, you know, I've read in some interviews where he, you know, inserts liquid seaweed into the soil. It's really quite a regenerative, progressive farming process, isn't it?
It is. So Richard was one of the, for the last 25 years, was one of the first farmers to do minimum tillage. Probably a lot of farmers might have looked at him and says, what on earth is he doing up there? You know, you should be ploughing, you should be doing all that kind of thing. But no, Richard's quite forward thinking. He likes his gadgets as well, so that he will buy machinery with tracks. He'll put on liquid fertiliser so that whenever he's using the Mintel that had everything in the one system. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. It all depends on the weather. So one of the tractors that we had bought, we had to take it all off because it was actually too heavy in the ground. But we don't want to disturb the soil. It's always trying to ensure that you're doing the best for the soil, because if we don't have the right soil, we're not going to have good crops.
Yeah.
We use this for the oilseed. We use the same variety all the time of oilseed, because we find that our customers who we're supplying to, be it, our home cook, or be it our chefs who are creating amazing meals, maybe as far as Michelin star, we have to ensure that it's consistent all the time.
Yeah.
So our soil is important as well as what variety we're using.
Consistency is key, really, isn't it? Yeah, for your quality product. Leona, would it be fair to say that there is a little bit of misunderstanding around the health benefits of oilseed rape? And if so, could you maybe clarify that for us?
I love this question, Shauna. So we get asked this a lot about our rapeseed oil. Is it healthy? Is it a seed oil? Or, is it good for you or bad for you? We basically go back and say that we're cold pressed. We're not chemically extracted. So we don't use frothing agents. We don't wash our oil the way chemically extracted does. We basically process it similar to olive oil. So it's first press. We take one type of seed from our own fields, so we know it directly from when we plant it to when we harvest it to what we dry it to. We don't add high presses to it, so high temperature in our press, and it's naturally filtered through. So a lot of companies will basically process it with hexagon, which is a product that is derived kind of from diesel. We don't do any of that. So we don't. We're very much a different product to what other people are talking about when they talk about seed oils. It is oilseed. We're not canola. It's a different variety, and people are always worried that are you damaging the environment, are you killing bees and all those kind of things. We don't do that at all. So I think there's so much negativity from some of the press that's going around at the minute. It's good to clarify that we're doing it totally different to what someone else is doing. We take great pride in what we do, and any negativity on seed oils, I'm always very happy to confirm that we're totally not anything like those products, and that we're doing a high-end quality cold-pressed single estate rapeseed oil.
The name Broighter Gold, and even the design, the little torque design on your beautiful bottle, is very much about the place. And you were inspired to name it Broighter Gold, and the logo design by an incredible story about one of the greatest gold hoards in Ireland that was found quite close to your land. I mean, that in itself is an incredible story, but proved to be the inspiration for your packaging.
Yeah, I think it's really important for me. Being authentic is one thing. Telling the truth, being honest, and creating a story is all lovely, and it's all part of it. But we're very proud to be from Limavady. It's a beautiful town to come from, but it's making people aware of what actually was before us, the history of the town. Yeah. We live in Broighter Road. We could have called it something else. One of the designers wanted to call it Trove Gold, which I didn't really agree with. Someone else thought I put a O in it by accident and it should be Broighter Gold. So there's been few comments on it, but whenever you actually tell someone, this is a real gold hoard that was found in the fields in 1896 that was unearthed by two ploughmen who caught on the torque, and it's the torque was my favourite piece, and that's where our logo comes from, as well as a drop of oil. And they're like, oh, I didn't realise that. It's their history. They should know that.
And it's featured in this beautiful book, isn't it? The torque.
Yeah.
Which was one of the pieces that was found by two ploughmen that were ploughing the land in the 1800s. Yeah,
1896. There was two ploughmen, and it was actually the torque that they caught on, so that's why it was ripped, and it was all inside an umbrella at the time, and it was all taken into my sister-in-law's house now, and it was washed in there. But that gold was found in our fields that we're farming. And the strange thing was our first batch of oil actually came out of that field. So it's known as the golden field.
Yeah.
But it was also by coincidence that was our first batch of oil. But
unfortunately, you didn't get to keep that hoard of gold. Sure, you didn't, Leona. It's currently now on display in the National Museum in Dublin, isn't that right?
That's right. And it's a beautiful display. We took the kids down last year to see it. And we were speaking to one of the head curators, and Ned Kelly always wanted to come back up to see where it was actually found. So he loved that, we had created a story of the Broighter Gold and the connection with it. Yeah. So no, it's our own wee piece of liquid gold. But if we find any more, I'll not be working, Shauna.
You're just right. Do you think consumers today value that connection to place?
I do.
I think they do.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important for us as a family farm to connect with the past. And not to forget about what was there. But for us, it's always building up in a brand, and we want to make sure that what brand we're creating now, hopefully our two kids might take on and develop other things from that story and that brand as well. Because at the end of the day, family farms are very different. You're working for your kids, you're passing it on. We're hearing it all in the news now. Richard's mum and dad worked so hard all their lives and passed it on to Richard. It's not just something that you build up and you sell on.
No, it's very much about legacy for you, Leo, for you and Richard, Leona, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's a lot of businesses that'll start off where we keep saying we're still a very new business in Broighter Gold, but the family farm's been there for like 140 years. That we can date it as far back to at Glasgow, and that's something that hangs on top of you all the time, because if we let the side down now after 6 generations, what are they going to think of us at the end of the day?
I don't think there's any danger of that happening. At the heart of every great Northern Ireland food story are the ingredients that make it possible. For over 80 years, the team at Andrew Ingredients has been the steadfast partner behind our thriving food industry. They're based in Lisburn. They're a proud family business with a team dedicated to helping local producers grow and innovate. Whether you're an artisan startup or an established local brand, Andrew Ingredients is proud to champion the people who make our food scene so special. To learn more about their story and how they support the local industry, head over to andrewingredients.com or follow them on socials at Andrew Ingredients. Let's talk about building a brand, because you take this massive leap from farming along with Richard, and you then create this incredible product and this beautiful brand. How was that for you? What was that like? How tricky was it? How complicated was it?
We started off with the idea. The idea then developed through Invest NI. I went to Invest NI and spoke to them. I had went to Dard first of all before that, spoke to a lady, I will call her, who had put me down and said basically I arrived pregnant with this business idea, and she kind of looked at me and she says, "You're pregnant," she says, "with no third level education, and how are you going to set up this business?" And I went, "Well, me and my husband's going to set it up together." I says, "I'm hoping to do something different from the farm." So she kind of put me down that day, and I came home bawling my eyes out to Richard, which I don't normally do. And I was like, "Richard, this is crazy. I've no idea how to set up a business. How do I do a business plan? This is never going to work. No way. I'm just sticking to my job. I'm going to stick at it." And he basically told me to wise up and get on with it and pull myself together. So I pulled myself together, and I ended up going and doing one of the mini design programs through Invest NI many moons ago. And I ended up working with 2 fantastic designers who really got on top of what my idea was. So years and years ago, Shauna, you'll remember, everything used to be over-branded. So that was the one thing I went into the supermarket and literally lifted loads of products and went, "I don't want this, I don't want this. I want this as minimalistic, really clean and clear, that someone will want to put this on their kitchen beside their cooker and actually go, oh, that's Broighter Gold, and tell a story." And that was always my idea. Richard would say I have a wee bit OCD. I don't. I just like things done in a certain way.
Of course. Yeah.
So for me, I want my kitchen looking nice.
Yeah.
And that was kind of part of what I wanted. So I worked with Greg, and he was fantastic, and he kind of got what I wanted and came up with the idea of the torque, which I loved. It was my favourite piece. But he says, that represents your drop of oil as well. So that's where it came from. I wanted a nice clean cut, no colour, no nothing, apart from every time we brought out a different flavour. Mm-hmm. The colour would be represented by what the flavour is.
Of course.
But no, it wasn't easy at the start kind of getting that across, because every designer wants to load wording on it. Yeah. And that was just not what I wanted.
Yeah, but you wanted to keep it clean and simple. Yeah. And it works. It works beautifully. Yeah. So tell me about the early days. The early days must have been really crazy for you, because in the early days you started selling at farmers markets. Mm-hmm. You brought the product to independent shops, garden centres, and it must have been pretty hectic those early days.
It was. I had 2 young babies, Jacob and Emily. I was actually running about pregnant, and I did make a joke. I think people bought the oil off me just to get me out of the shop. Because I was so heavily pregnant, and I was running about with a wee trolley. I was knocking on every chef's door. I wasn't scared to walk into a kitchen and say, "Will you try this oil for me?" I was quite worried, because at that stage people didn't really like rapeseed oil. It was, what is rapeseed oil? Why am I going to use this? It's not olive oil. And it wasn't until you started to explain, the health benefits and the cooking properties of it, that it cooks to a higher temperature. And they were like, well, why are we not using this compared to, using olive oil? It's a local product. So we ended up getting some fantastic chefs, to be honest, and to kind of not endorse it for us, but they did it out of their own back by pushing it along. And
I know in your first year of business, you were at IFEX, the big food and drink hospitality exhibition, and you won, in your very first year in business, you won a product and packaging award, and that brought your product, Broighter Gold, to the attention of chefs right across the island of Ireland. What impact did that have in those very early days on the business, Leona?
The impact it had, I went back to work again, because I was still working part-time, and one of my bosses said to me, I think you're taking more calls for Broighter Gold than you are for us.
Right.
And I says, I think it's this time to make the decision. I either need to leave or, just push this and get it going. So at the start, we sent our seed, so the tiny black seeds, we used to send them off to a guy over in England, and he pressed the oil for us. He sent it back in a bottle, and I had a Czech tea towel that sat, and I labelled on our island. Granny and my mum would stand in the garage and put on neck tags onto all the bottle, put them back in the box for me, and then I would usually deliver them myself. So I'd tick different areas at the time and call in. So that was the impact that it had. I gave up my job.
Yeah, and it was all hands on deck.
And it was all
in
hands
those very early days. We talk about the seed rape, the oil seed rape, which is this little black seed. Yeah. So can you explain for our lovely community the process of actually from the field at Broglasgow to the bottle?
So whenever we harvest it, Shauna, it looks like it's something dead in the field. So it looks kind of like that. And inside there is all our tiny seeds. So it's like peas in the pod, basically. So once Richard goes in with a combine, he cuts it down, harvests it. We bring that into our drying floors. So it's just like tiny peppercorns, basically. The seeds are dried to the right moisture. If you don't dry it to the right moisture, it's going to go off inside the bottle. Once it's dried, we store the bags in ton bags, and then we take it round to we clean it as well, we take it through a process of cleaning it, which basically means it's like a huge, massive sieve, and then all the seeds are sieved out through to different grades. We bag that up, store it in our warehouse, and then take it round and press it all year round. So once we press, we take it through. We have two presses it runs, and then we literally put it into the first tank and then filter it down to 1 micron. So it goes through tiny, tiny paper sieves and then filters right down to 1 micron. But people would always say to us, why are you not like olive oil and putting it in a dark bottle? Well, if we do the process of growing, drying, filtering the whole way through. It's a natural product and it's fine sitting in that bottle because we know the grade of it. It's all tested. From that, then our team bottles it, and we literally either bottle our pure oil or we do the infusions, and everything. The infusions are actually still done by hand. Believe it or
still
not.
hand artisan by hand process, isn't it?
Yeah. We need to win the lottery to get a lovely big semi-automatic system again for the infusions, but at the moment it's still all done by hand. So we've a fantastic team. We're very lucky, and they get on with it.
And you've built this incredible range over time, haven't you, of infused rapeseed oil. So talk to us about the range and the beautiful flavour combinations.
We have a range of 13 that we do for Broighter Gold. We also do a range for Simply Better, and then we've started with Marks and Spencer's. So each supermarket has a different range that we supply.
And yes, because you're just not any rapeseed oil provider. You're an M&S approved supplier, aren't you?
We are now. We're very, very lucky. So we are, and it's been exciting opportunities that we've had for the last few years. So it's growing and it's great.
Yeah. So people can buy the retail range, the majority of the flavours in local supermarkets, in independent speciality food shops and delis, but you're also supplying to Dunn's and now to Marks and Spencer's.
And Sainsbury's. And all of Henderson's.
Yeah. Now, you don't do that overnight, sure you don't.
You don't.
That takes years and years of hard work and relationship building. Tell us how you achieved those incredible listings.
I keep saying we've been fortunate, but it has been hard work in the background. You know, Sainsbury's approached us whenever we first started at Balmoral Show to stock them. But at that stage, Shauna, we were supplying farmers markets. We were doing small shops. There's no way that...
You had the capacity.
We just didn't. There was probably only 2 of us bottling oil at that stage, and that was including me. So there's no way that we could upscale that quickly. But it was about maybe 3 years later, we started to sell to Marks and Spencer's to Sainsbury's, and that's been fantastic. You know, we've been with them now for nearly 14 years, 15 years, and we've worked really well. And from that, then we went on to Musgrave, we went on to Henderson's, but it was just building it up over the years of taking on different stages where we felt that we could.
And were there risks taken during those years? Growing the business, Leona? There must have been.
There was huge risks, but the problem is once you start expanding, you've got different levels of, you know, trade and standards. The environmental officers come and saying that you need to do this, you need to do that. I'll not go into it too much, but they don't understand the process. So they overcomplicate it sometimes, and they just don't understand taking something from a farm and then feeding it through into a food production area.
And how do you overcome that then?
Determination. Knowing more sometimes than what you need to know, and making sure that you're fighting your own corner. But it was a fight. It was a lot of stress at the time. But as long as you're confident and getting all the tests, everything done right, you have to overcome it, because if you believe in your product, you have to keep pushing it, and you have to make sure that it's going the right way. And that was something that I had to learn. I didn't really know much about rapeseed oil to start with. So it was making sure that I worked with Greenmount and Loughrea and all those different departments to be able to help me. And AFBI was one of my strongest advantages, that Richard had that connection with AFBI, and they were able to do loads of things for me up there as well, to prove that what we had wasn't going to kill anybody, basically. Yeah, so from that then we started basically to get noticed. We obviously have won a lot of awards over the years, including here and the UK. And the supermarkets started to come to us. So there's been stages where we've said to them, listen, we would love to supply, you know, but can we just do one product now, and then we'll maybe develop something later on? So we have worked with them as much as they've worked with us, and you know, they've probably held our hand in a lot of ways as well, that we get away with saying that we're a small family farm business, and, you know, we're not being asked what a lot of other producers are being asked to pay a lot of fees and things. It doesn't work that way. I'm a tight farmer's wife that just won't pay it. So that's how it works. If someone
determined tight farmer's wife, right?
Thrifty is maybe a better word.
Yeah.
But we can't afford to pay everything that people expect, and taking a local product it's an asset for them to have it there because it's good for their luck as well, as much as it is for us to be there. But supplying a supermarket has actually been great for us. We've been able to upscale, but we've invested a lot of money.
And significantly, because I know you've pretty much taken over all of Richard's, all of the barns and I know that your beautiful shop, which we'll talk about later on, which is on the premises, used to be the pigsty. It used to, so you've invested significantly, as you've had to, in growing the business and accommodating your growing staff as well, because you have a team of 3 or 4 now working with you.
6.
Oh, you're 6 now.
6 now. Yeah. So Broighter Gold is 6, but
you've had to scale up every time a new multiple has approached, and that's risky.
It is, especially Simply Better for us was one, like it's fantastic. Absolutely love working with Duns. They've been amazing, to be honest. Paperwork is always your hardest thing to get over whenever you work with a supermarket, because there's a lot of paperwork you have to do for them, and it's part of it, because at the end of the day we're going under a white label for them, so we have to ensure that we're doing the best we can.
Will you explain just that to our community? Is that own label?
Yeah. So own label. Yeah. So when you do own label for someone else, it's very different to me putting in our own product in there. Putting your own product in there, it's our brand, it's our name. At the start, there was no way I was doing own brand products for anybody, because it's important for me that we're not growing it in a cheap way. We're not buying it in from a mill. We're not, literally taking it out of England, buying in a whole pile of oilseed. It's coming from our actual farm. So I want to ensure that everybody knows whatever bottle we put it into, be it own label or not, that they know it's coming from us. So
they
know.
Can stand over the quality and the consistency. Of course, that's important because it's your product.
Yeah. So the big thing for us is whenever we do own label, that we get our name on there somewhere. So that's not normal either. So Duns were fantastic. We do have it produced by the Cane Farm at Glasgow, and that makes me very proud that we're sitting in 142 stores with our wee name from Moreau and Limavady, showing that we're producing this. Same goes for the Marks and Spencer's white label, we do for them. It's grown and produced in Limavady, and that puts Limavady on the spot as much as it puts us on. But
it's also wise from a marketing perspective, from the multiples, that because it's that whole connection to place and the story, the family story, the Cane family from Limavady, so yeah.
People can look us up and basically say, all right, well, they're growing it this way, they're being sustainable, they're looking after the environment. I know I'm getting a healthy product. Whereas if they're buying something with an own brand product in one of the supermarkets that maybe the last while hasn't had great marketing or PR, that they don't know where that product's coming from, or it's a fake farm that's put on there. Well, that's not great. So that's why we want to ensure that we're always a real farm, real business, and we're doing the right thing.
Can we talk a little bit about the flavours? Because we have 13 now. So talk to me about the first couple of flavours that you introduced, and what was that based on? What inspired those flavours? Was that your customers or the chefs that you were working with, or
Twitter? Believe it or not, it was Twitter. Back in the day when Twitter was really, really active, and we're not very active on Twitter anymore. But it was before, it was actually quite a stupid thing to do. But we had one product that we used to go to Balmoral show, and we were always beside Belfast Cookery School, who are big advocates for us. And I thought, you know what, it's really boring just having one oil there. So I stupidly put on Twitter one night, what other oils would you like? Because at that stage, I was just making our own oils at night. I was always quite conscious that people made their own oils and they cooked with them. Why would they want an infused oil? And I thought, we're not going to sell too much. And at the end of the day, if you're taking time to make something, you need enough sales volumes too. And people come back with all these different ideas. Rosemary was one that I always made at home, but small batches. Chili was one I made at home, small batches, so you avoided botulism. And one of my friends, Paula, she said, but you need to be careful. You don't create botulism and kill someone. I was like, yeah, I know. Sean, he said to me, Google, he says, an incident in New York, Leona, you be very careful what you're doing there. And I thought, oh my word, this is crazy. What am I doing this for? Done research, checked it all out, went to Lockery, spoke to a few people, and they were like, right, this is how we do it properly. I thought, I'm going to launch 2 oils before we go to Balmoral show. This will be great. It'll be something extra for people to bring out. We ended up launching 4 for Balmoral show that year. Nearly killed me because in our small, at that stage, I think we might have had one other staff member working for us. Mummy might have come in on and off to help out. We launched 4 products: rosemary and garlic, lemon, basil and chilli.
At Balmoral.
It was hectic. The heat that year was unbelievable. I had worked that hard in the lead up to it, and we always stayed at Balmoral show as well. So we had a lovely caravan. We stayed up there. There was late nights, early mornings.
Of course, it's a very busy show.
Busy show. And I passed out halfway through the show.
Oh my goodness, Leona.
Because it was so crazy. So it wasn't probably a good idea to bring the 4 out at once, but at the end of the day, they all sold out. It was great.
Yeah, you just overdid it. Just working really, really hard, long nights, young family, and but you were just so anxious to get,
I think,
these new flavours in the public domain, and particularly at Balmoral, where you can sample and they can test and give you feedback, and that's very important.
The funny thing was, we realised quickly that actually it was easy for people to lift a bottle of oil whenever something was done for them. But what really surprised me was the chefs were buying them more than anybody because they liked what we were doing, and it saved them money on ingredients. It saved their young chefs time and maybe making it wrong. So that probably surprised me most. So then we started to develop different ones, and a chef would come to me and say, Leona, would you make this? And it wasn't just for a chef we were making it for. There's so many home cooks that was at home as well cooking away. So that's how the infusions transpired. I love working on the infusions. It's a side I like doing, bringing out new ones and then getting friends, to sample and taste them, bringing them back into the kitchen table. Whenever Jacob was probably about 6, it was our lemon oil. And we had him sitting up dipping bread in oil. And he'd say, Mommy, that's not right.
Oh.
And from that early stage, we were getting them to taste them. It was the same. The hickory smoked one was one. We actually won an award our first year bringing it out, and we won an award at Blast and Iron. And whenever we brought it out to start with, it was Kevin from Pike and Palms. He says, will you make me a smoky oil? And I says, oh, Kevin, how am I going to do that? And he says, if you could drop charcoal into a bucket of oil. And I was like, I'm not doing that. My pressing room would end up filthy. And he was like, well, I want that smoky flavour. So we ended up working on it for him without the charcoal. And again, I took it into Jacob and Emily and Richard, and I says, go and try this for me. I'm not really into it. I said, I don't really like the taste and the smell. And again, they says, no, it's not strong enough. Once you cook with it, you need to get more flavour into it. So we won gold at Blast and Iron, and I said...
For the hickory infused.
For the hickory. And I said to Artie, I'm going to send you a video. And it was Jacob thanking Artie for winning the gold, because
sweet.
I always said, well, Jacob, that was your idea, son. I says, you're the one that said it wasn't right. So he had this wee video up. So
I can just picture Jacob and Emily sitting up at the breakfast bar in the farmhouse kitchen, taste testing for Mummy's new infusions. How fabulous, your own inbuilt taste testers.
Well, they've done it from a young age.
Sophisticated palates then from a young age, haven't they?
Yeah, it's not great now, Shauna, because they like eating out. That's the biggest problem.
Talk to me about the chefs that you work with. I mean, have you ever had a chef that's approached you and requested a flavour that has really just seemed so bizarre or very, very strange?
Yeah. We have. We have had different requests, and some we've had to turn down. One of the most exciting one was 23 karat gold. So we brought out a 23 karat gold oil.
Interesting.
It was great, and we had it out for about 4 or 5 years. We were supplying chefs in Dubai with it, which was fantastic. No one else at work would make it apart from me. So I literally had to clear everybody out and do it myself without breathing. So I used to put a mask on to do it, because if you moved at all, the gold leaf went everywhere. We brought it out. James Martin came on it, and he came across, cooked with it. It went viral, basically. We sold so many bottles that it paid to put in our heating and aircon in the new warehouse.
Fantastic.
And it was amazing. We had thousands of orders, and unfortunately someone actually complained and we had to take it off because there was a new EU legislation that came in to say gold leaf wasn't allowed to be put into anything else other than alcohol and confectionery that we didn't know, so sweets.
Yeah.
So we had to take it off the market.
Oh, for goodness, that was challenging.
We're not part of the EU anymore, but I was thinking we could bring it back on.
How does a chef in Dubai end up working with a farmer's wife from Limavady? How does that come about?
We were selling oil in Dubai through Waitrose and Spinneys, and there was a few chefs come over to Belfast, met from Dubai, and that's how we ended up, because we were already supplying them, and it was our 10th anniversary, so it was about 5 years ago. And
from Limavady to Dubai. It's great.
Yes.
Love it. What flavour do you love to cook with when you're at home? All of them, I'm sure, on different days, for different reasons.
It depends what I'm cooking. I like cooking. I'm not a fancy cook. I just enjoy cooking. But the one I use most is probably the hickory smoked now, the one I didn't really like. So I use it for starting a lot of like soups, meats, or even roast vegetables. I love basil. Basil's my baby. I love the basil. And truffle and porcini. Truffle and porcini is the one that I would go to all the time.
And are you satisfied now with the range, or are you looking at developing new flavours?
Yeah.
And what's influencing that?
I can't tell you at the minute, but we're working with someone. And it's quite exciting. We have a new product coming out. It's going to take probably about a year to bring that one out. So we're very much at early stages.
When you say a new product, do you mean a new infusion or something completely different?
I'm not going to tell you a lot, Shauna.
Oh. She's not going to spill the beans at all.
We are working with a company, and it'll be in smaller bottles, so it's quite unique. And we've been working at it for about a year already, and it'll have to stay there for another year. So use your imagination.
All right.
We would like to bring out a few new flavours, but the way I look at it, we've got quite a good base there now, and maybe bringing out something more seasonal. So there's a few oils I would like to look at, but you can bring out too many as well. And people keep saying, oh, don't take it off. Like our Thai oil has got to a stage, it's really, really expensive to make. But whenever we put it out there to say that we were going to stop it, we had so many customers came back and says, that's my favourite oil. So you feel really reluctant to pull it off as well. But at the same time, the price of ginger now and the price of lemongrass has just escalated.
Is that impacting greatly?
It is.
Because you're having to import some of those dry, I imagine those ingredients are dried, or what format do you bring them in?
We bring them in liquid form, but they've just got to a stage with the cost of diesel, Brexit, the war. You know, it all impacts us that nobody actually sees, and you've got a price point at the end of the day that you can charge for it. You know, some people say, "Oh, put it up to the price of truffle oils and things like that," but you can't. You know, you just have to. So we'll see. We'll leave it for another wee while and see how it goes. But no, ingredients, glass, all those things have changed so much since we first started. But I think we're quite lucky because we're in control of the whole thing through from farm to bottle, that we're in control of prices and stuff as well, so we can see when things goes up and down. But I do have to buy my oilseed from Richard.
The farmer's wife has to buy the oilseed from the farmer. That's fantastic. I'd love to talk to you about the fact that just on the cusp of COVID in 2020, you guys diversified slightly and you saved the famous McGilligan carrots from going into extinction almost. What drove that diversification? Because Richard's been an arable farmer and yet you diversify into carrots. Tell us all about that.
We were coming from Castle Rock one day and we were talking about McGilligan carrots, and obviously for us now, we love, you know, it was very different for Richard for years. His crops, wheat and barley, was going to the mill. You never knew who was using it. And like, I can honestly tell you, we are so lucky with our customers. They're very vocal in what they think of all the products, and it's just a different way now, having a consumer there that you speak to, and not just sending something away for animals to eat on. So we were coming up through, and we had heard, unfortunately, that McGilligan carrots was up for sale and it was probably going to be sold out. And Richard says, oh, it'd be a real shame, wouldn't it? And I went, it would. And we literally were coming from Castle Rock, past the place, and Richard just pulled in. And he says, we'll be back in 5 minutes. And I was sitting in the car. He says, are you coming in? I went, no, I'm all right. I'll sit here. And he came out and he goes, I think I've just bought a carrot plant. And I was like, what on earth are we doing?
The way you do.
The way you do. So it was like a 10, 15 minute conversation to go on, I think we've just bought this. And I went, oh my glory. So on the mouth, the actual day of COVID, you know, the way, we don't want to think of COVID again, but that day, my staff, they come in to me. I was actually in the house at this stage because obviously kids were at home. Mm-hmm. We were spread out from the office as you had to do. Mm-hmm. And I says, well, I'll work inside. You stay out here and work in different offices. And two in production decided that was their bubble. And then they phoned me and they says, Leona, we've just heard on the radio that basically everywhere's shutting down. Does that mean we close? And I went, yeah, I think it does. I says, I don't think we're a farmer because we were food production. I didn't really understand what it meant. And I phoned Richard and I was in tears and I says, I've worked so hard for this business for 10 years. I says, it's going to shut down. This isn't fair. And I was actually crying. And he said to me, don't worry, Leona. He says, the plant's arriving up today. He says, we're going into carrots. You can sell carrots for me. I says, I don't want to sell bloody carrots.
But Leona, there's nothing like dirty carrots. You know, with the soil. I mean, that's the only way to buy them because you can really taste the difference. Was it a big change for you guys? Was it very challenging for you?
Yeah. It was great, to be honest. It was one of the best things that happened. We ended up, Broighter Gold got so busy. We never shut down at all. Mm-hmm. The carrot plants was going in, so it meant that our men in the farmyard, they had work continually. You know, they weren't laid off. So our staff were really worried. They've all mortgages and stuff to pay as well. So it was our busiest time. We never stopped. Like, you know, we had friends that was getting their gardens done, this beautiful tan, getting work done to their house, and here we were.
Flat to the mat.
Just working. Yeah. Just doing the normal thing. Yeah. But it was great. And Richard really, really loves doing the carrots. Yeah. Like McGilligan carrots are so sweet. It's really hard unless you've had them to understand the difference and how crunchy and how hard, but how sweet they are. Yeah. And the difference in that compared to what you buy in a shop.
Oh, there's just no equal to the dirty carrots.
But Richard, being Richard, is quite fanatical to make sure that he has the best carrots.
Yeah.
So we have grown it now over the last few years and it's been fantastic. So I think he's either up to 30 or 40 acres now, Shauna. I'm not too sure. But we're still small in comparison to what everybody else is doing.
And Richard's customer base, so your customer base for the carrots, again, local hospitality industry, or are you selling them into retail as well? Or?
No, we're not retail at all because unfortunately we have one retail shop, Harry's in Limavady, which they do really well with the carrots, but we're all completely wholesale, so we go direct all to our local wholesalers. Okay. They then put it directly into the hotels, so the hotels and some of the shops know that they're getting McGilligan carrots, Cane carrots, Broighter Gold carrots. We're not sure what they're called yet, but for the last 5 years it's been called various things. But yeah, he also started spuds last year, Shauna.
Right. Do you think this diversification that he's implementing on the farm, is it part of a strategic plan to make the farm more sustainable throughout the seasons?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, wheat and barley and oilseed. So oilseed you harvest first. Wheat, barley comes next, but not to sound like a crying farmer's wife, but there's not the money in wheat and barley anymore. So there's not. We farm roughly about 700 acres, 750 acres, depending on what year it is. So we own land and take land. That's changing next year probably, and that we're going to be reducing down our acres because that farm has been sold. For us, we're thinking ahead. You know, Jacob's 17. He wants to go away, do what he wants to do for 10 years and then come home again. But in that 10 years, we also have Emily to think on. And as much as you can't plan your kids' lives, but they want to come back into the farm, so we have to think of ways and businesses to pass on at different stages. So it's very much thinking on them.
It really is legacy, isn't it? Yeah. Protecting, growing, everything that you do. And that leads me nicely on to the fact that in 2022, I believe, Taste Causeway awarded you the Slow Food Person of the Year award. Now, knowing you as I do, I know that would have been hugely important to you, Leona. Tell us why.
It really was, to be honest. Having Slow Food recognise what we do is something very special, to be honest. You're always working hard and you're winning awards for your products. So you're winning it for taste, you're winning it for your marketing, and that's all brilliant. But whenever you get recognised through Slow Food, who are a huge, huge network, that you're doing something for the environment, something that you're putting out there for your consumer. And it was me. You know, I'm quite happy to hide behind the name Broighter Gold. I'm always very happy if I'm getting a photograph, as long as there's a bottle of oil or something in front of me. You know, I don't mind that. But whenever it's your name, you know, that means something quite different. It does.
Because it really recognised the fact that, you know, you're supporting sustainable practices across the business and supporting biodiversity, which is another passion of yours, between the wildflowers and the sunflowers and the bees. Tell us about the bees.
The bees.
You're a beekeeper.
The bees. I love the birds and the bees.
Yeah.
I started beekeeping. We had a lovely beekeeper who used to come to our farm, and he used to be down the back all the time, you know, putting the bees in the oilseed because, I know all this now, but the oilseed helps the bees and nukes to come on, basically, which means it breeds more bees. And I said to him one day, I says, would you ever bring an extra soot? I'd love to see what it looks like inside the hive. And I says, I've never seen comb honey. So he brought me up this thing of comb honey, and I was like, oh my word, that's amazing. I says, look at it. It was so perfect. And, you know, just what the bees had created. And I'm going, that's unreal. How did they do it? So the next thing was he used to land, and he says, you coming down again? And I was like, yeah, I am. And he says, right. He says, you're getting a hive. I went, I'm not. I says, no way. I don't have time for this. Yeah. I do not want any bees. I haven't a clue at all. So he landed round and he says, sign up for this. You're doing the course round at Roe Valley Bee Association. I says, Richard, I don't have time for all this. This is crazy. Of course, I did do it. And he says, if you do it, he says, I'll get you a jar of Ling honey. Like Ling honey's like champagne. Basically, of honey. And lo and behold, I did it, passed it, and I got my jar of Ling honey.
Good for you. Good for you.
There was a few others in the course was going, how did you get that? And I says, well, I promised me I'd get Ling honey. And it was so good. Jim landed out with a box of bees for me and said, there you go, get started. And that's how I ended up starting beekeeping. And it's weird. Whenever you open a box of bees, you really switch off. But, you know, even down, it was fantastic because Richard, he appreciates all that, and there's a lot of farmers who don't. So he's very good in that we use more micronutrients. We don't use herbicides. We spray seaweed a lot. So people think, you know, they see a farmer in a field spraying. Well,
it's a chemicals.
It's not a chemical always. But he goes out, and Richard's very good. He says, do you think your bees in, Leona? And I'm going, well, it's dusk now. They probably are. You know, so he'll go out late at night, things like that there as well. Mm-hmm. But it's lovely having the bees. They go a 5-mile radius, so especially whenever there's oilseed there, probably shouldn't say it, but it's like cocaine for them. You know, they just go crazy for the oilseed, and really? that's what's good for them. Yeah. But whenever the flower starts to die off, then you either need to feed them or move them on somewhere.
And the honey must be incredible.
It is. It's lovely.
Are you selling it in the store, in the shop? No, it's just definitely for home use. Yeah. So it's more a hobby, really, isn't it?
It's just a hobby. That's all it is. No, it's not for sale at all. Because one year would be good, the next year wouldn't be. But there's loads of beekeepers who do. I'm probably the worst beekeeper in our area because I don't have time, Shauna. I understand why people do it that are probably retired or older. Yeah. But it's relaxing.
It's time consuming.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, you might not rate yourself as a beekeeper, but boy, you're some animal rescuer, aren't you? Hi, Seamus.
Seamus is great.
Yeah. How many do we have now on the farm?
I don't class myself as an animal rescuer. I just say,
well, you rehome them.
Sometimes they just need a wee change of life.
Yeah.
Seamus is brilliant. He was very lame when we got him.
Tell our community who Seamus is.
Seamus is our wee donkey. Mm-hmm. So he is. He's a miniature donkey that I got contacted to say that basically they were looking for a home. We had rescued 2 Shetlands as well from a farm outside Ballycastle because they ended up somehow linked with the Lammas Fair and needed a home. We have 2 rescue dogs. We've got 4 cats.
How do you find the time to do it all? You must be up at the scrape of dawn, are you?
No, I'm not.
No,
I'm not too
but
bad.
then you've got Emily and Jacob, and they help out a lot, I would imagine.
The kids do it all, but I think animals are very good for your soul. I think animals come to you for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Our house wouldn't be anything without animals, to be honest. Yeah. And like Emily rides and stuff, so we've got the ponies as well. But no, I think it's nice to have animals for kids because, well, for us, you know, it gives them a purpose. It gives them a job. It means that they can't lie in the house.
They learn the value of their chores and working hard,
But it's worse whenever you lose one. But they also see that you have to be resilient and get on with it. So you do. So
good lessons.
Good lessons, I think so.
Yeah. So 2026 is shaping up to be another busy year. Can't wait to see what this new product idea is. Anything else that you want to share with us? Anything else exciting coming up? Will you be at Balmoral?
We won't be at Balmoral. We're not doing it this year. We might do it next year because the kids are actually showing interest that they would love to go back and do it.
Okay.
So we haven't done the shows for a few years because, to be honest, we're busy enough through the week that by the time you take that time out to do a show, it's too busy. But I think it would be nice for them to experience what it's like to do a show and event and actually put in a lot of hard work that people don't see. Yeah. But no, this year we have just launched with M&S, so I think that's enough for us at the minute. And then we're taking on actually a new member of staff, which is quite exciting.
Is it the pinnacle of a food producer's journey to secure that listing with M&S here in Northern Ireland? I would imagine that really meant a lot.
We were approached quite a few years ago to go to M&S, and we just said we weren't ready. 2 years ago, they approached me again and said, you know, they'd found out about our oil. I think, to be honest, the Simply Better again helped us along that way. But they loved that our taste was totally different to other rapeseed oils. And we were just launching with Tesco's at the time as well. So I'm always worried that you take on an overload of too much paperwork. So we kept it going quite slowly. But to launch with M&S, it was always, I have a to-do list, Shauna, and that to-do list gets ticked every so often, be it maybe years later or whatever. But M&S was one of the top ones that I had. So we're delighted to be there. But there's more things happening there as well.
Yeah. Oh. Another way exclusive. Can't wait to see what 2026 brings for Broighter Gold. Leona, one of the questions we finish off with all our guests is we ask you, of the abundance of wonderful food and drink products we have here in Northern Ireland, what will we always find that's not your own range, of course, in Leona's larder or fridge or freezer?
Okay, for our products, probably Paula's gin.
Paula McIntyre's gin, your great friend Paula.
Yeah, that's always in our cupboards. If it's in relation to food, Ballylist cheese is one I love. And we always have burn balsamics as well. That's not one, is it? That's 3.
That's 3, but that's okay. That's okay. Leona, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here in the Love NI Food podcast studio, supported by Andrew Ingredients.
Thank you, Shauna.